Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. So as many are very well aware out there that are Spider-Man fans, the One More Day was something that completely and totally destroyed the Spider-Man ecosphere as far as the relationship between Mary Jane and Peter Parker. This obviously severely upset a lot of the fan base out there, and this is something that many fans have been clamoring to have retcon for over a decade and a half in the mainline Amazing Spider-Man series out there. But of course, this is something that they're not going to do because we can't have any kind of hopeful heroes with positive, healthy relationships out there with good quality families or any of that kind of nonsense. No, boys and girls, all of our heroes have to be completely and totally destroyed and break down to be just, well, nothing more than disrespectful little douchebags that continue to go through the exact same kind of nonsense over and over again because, hey, it's just fun to deconstruct our heroes. Yay! Isn't that always fun in the modern era? Well, needless to say, a lot of fans have been very upset about this for a very long time. It doesn't take very much searching around the internet to find a lot of fans that have been very displeased and been asking for this retcon for a very long time. And I know that some of the new stuff that's going on out there with some of the newer series has actually kind of tried to retcon this, but of course it's not the main line Amazing Spider-Man series out there in any way, shape, or form, is it? No, boys and girls, this absolute abysmal failure out there, which has caused Marvel's Spider-Man sales numbers to turn into the absolute toilet of a dumpster fire, where they won't even actually report on official numbers anymore. And now that the fans have pushed back, and now that one fan even got his letter into the most recent edition for the mainline Spider-Man comics series out there, and guess what happened? Marvel's editor essentially told him to go pound sand, that you don't represent the millions of fans out there that have been clamoring for this to be retconned for a very long time. And that's exactly what we have to talk about here, because in his very own letter, his ignorance to what Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. was doing in the early days of Spider-Man shows you exactly what kind of ignoramus jerk-off this guy absolutely is. And the fact that they disrespect their fans in such a blatant and obvious way and put their ignorance on display shows you just one of the many more reasons why Marvel Comics are the disastrous dumpster fire that they currently are and are getting everything that they deserve. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to check this article from Bounding Into Comics. Marvel Comics Spider-Man line editor writes off fan who respectfully asked for a retcon of One More Day. Color us shocked there. So we're going to check out this article from Spencer McCooley over there. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, because boys and girls, we are grinding, we are growing, and I could not do this without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Let us know what you think about all of this, and obviously that all helps out with the algorithm as well. So please, are you one of those fans out there that wants to see the One More Day retconned? Are you perfectly okay with the absolute bastardization of the relationship between Peter Parker and Mary Jane and just making Peter Parker look nothing more than like a punk bitch that they have been trying to do for so very long? All opinions are welcome, as always. So bold the claim that your view is one representing multiple millions of fans' viewpoints. Well, anybody that would actually hang out and talk to legitimate Spider-Man fans and not just hang around with a bunch of the woke psychopaths you currently have working at Marvel, maybe you'd actually know that. In what can only be described as a stunning display of anti-fan sentiment, Marvel Comics editor Nick Lowe recently responded to a Spider-Man fan who respectfully inquired about a possible retcon of the Wall Crawler's infamous One More Day storyline by telling them essentially to kick rocks. If one were to ask almost any Spider-Man's comic book fan of Spider-Man's comic book and adventures what single storyline they would retcon, it's near unanimously the answer they would give would be a resulting refrain of One More Day. Penned in 2008 by then Marvel Comics editor-in-chief Joe Quesada. Yes, Quesada, yes. Out of a belief that a married superhero would be seen as unrelatable by younger readers, the entire 4-issue tale eventually concluded with Peter Parker trading his marriage with Mary Jane to Mephisto in exchange for the demon saving the life of the then critically wounded Aunt May. Now there is a storyline that has been done way too many times, boys and girls, and always is just nothing more than a cheap escape for any writer out there not being able to come up with an actually decent idea for a legitimate kind of actual sacrifice that you need to do. Oh, Aunt May's sick again. Wow. We haven't seen this done before, except like literally all the way back in the very beginning of the Spider-Man days with John Romita Sr. and Stan Lee. Come on, boys. Of course, this decision to throw away one of the greatest romances in a comic book history in order to presumably help ease Quesada's own midlife crisis went over like a brick. And in the years since, fans have continued to hold One More Day as ground zero for the absolute abysmal slate of the web-slinger's recent 616-based outings. And oh, color us shocked there. Quesada had a bunch of problems in his marriage, and instead of being a professional and being able to actually, go into work and leave your issues at the door and write good quality stories, no, he had to work out his own turmoil and to destroy Spider-Man and Mary Jane's wonderful relationship that fans have loved for literal decades because of his own personal BS. Wow, doesn't that remind us of something? Oh yeah, they always have to write everything just like it's themselves. They don't write Spider-Man, they write it as Joe Quesada. Color us shocked there. Oh, sadly, while fans have spent the last decade and a half begging Marvel Comics to either retcon the story outright, at the very least find a way to reunite Peter and MJ, just search the story's name on any social media platform and you're guaranteed to unearth an absolute trove of disappointment and outrage. The publisher has continuously shut down any and all attempts at discussing the matter. That's right, because your heroes can't be heroes, and they especially can't have successful relationships with marriage and children, God forbid, because all of these psychopaths don't want any part of that, because not only can they not handle one of those on their own without having a broken and disastrous dumpster fire of a relationship, they also don't want anybody else having family or kids, because, oh, we're so overpopulated, oh, it's a horror, yeah. It's all just Marxist nonsense. For an example of just how averse Spider editorial staff is to this idea, during his run on Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, Nick Spencer spent a good chunk of his creative energies rebuilding the pair's relationship and laying the groundwork for them to finally find themselves back in each other's arms. But as soon as he left the book, one of the first moves made by his successor, current series writer Zeb Wells, was to not only rip the two apart yet again, but also spit on the corpse of their relationship by immediately throwing MJ into a relationship with quite possibly the biggest waste of time and space in Marvel's history, Paul. Yes, boys and girls, all of a sudden Mary Jane's married to another dude with kids. And this is what Peter Parker walks back into. Yes, our hero, Spider-Man himself, which Spider-Man is Peter Parker and Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Miles Morales is Miles Morales for all of those fans out there as well. Yes, this is what they did. They quite literally cucked Peter Parker in his own series, ladies and gentlemen. Cucked him. Wow. Doesn't this explain a lot about the beta male bitches that we have working in the industry these days? Star Wars explained, anyone? Of course, despite the best attempts by Lowe, Wells, and the rest of the mainland Spider-Man team, fans have not stopped voicing their discontent with One More Day's continued in-canon status, with the letter pages of nearly every issue of Amazing Spider-Man Volume 6 featuring at least one message from the fans asking someone to end their favorite hero's continued editorial suffering. And though most of these sentiments are hand-waved away by Lowe, often by the way of, well, it's not for everyone, but we're going to keep on keeping on, the most recent issue of Amazing Spider-Man saw him respond to such a letter by outright insulting its offer. As featured back in the series' 57th issue, a fan by the name of Nick from New Zealand took his time out of his day to voice his opinions to Lowe with the release of issue number 53. I feel that the arc is the perfect microcosm, a pure distillation of the problems with the creative direction and ideology behind Spider-Man ever since 2008. And there's your key word, the ideology behind the modern writing and comic books. It's color us shocked there that Eric July with his Rippaverse comics out there continue to hit $1 million campaign after $1 million campaign, while literally all of the mainstream comics are being beaten by Transformers. All of the mainstream comics are being beat by Transformers' current run right now. Why? Because it's good and it's an accurate representation of the characters that we all know and love from their source material. Why is Spider-Man failing? Because of the ideology behind it that doesn't want heroes to be heroes. They always want them to be screwed up, damaged individuals, because that's who all the people are that are writing this nonsense, and they can't see past their own narcissism and ego. Peter has just turned evil for the third time in less than a year. The second time in only 4 issues. And I'm left wondering, haven't I already seen this before? I wonder why they keep trying to turn the heroes evil. This arc, hell, the whole run by Zeb feels like we're just going round and round in circles, and that feeling extends to nearly 500 issues prior to this moment as well. Nothing has really changed in Peter Parker's life in all that time. He still is just as much of a broke loser as he keeps pushing people away around him as he was immediately following one more day. All the while, everyone else in Marvel gets to grow and change. Hell, even Venom is a responsible father now. Why isn't Peter allowed to see any developments of his own like he had done for decades between 1962 and 2007? I speak for many millions of fans of Spider-Man, and I say I'm disappointed with his creative direction. And that's why I'm so supremely happy with the new Ultimate Spider-Man book, because it feels like a true continuation of Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, and John Romita Sr.'s ideals for the character and his growth. I really hope things change soon, and so do many others. So this is his response. This is his response. In response, rather than even trying to feign amicability or respect for his viewpoint, Lowe instead dismissed the New Zealand-based reader as essentially an outlier fan who had no idea what they were talking about regarding audience sentiment towards One More Day. Hello, fellow Nick, and thanks for writing. Sorry Amazing Spider-Man hasn't been doing it for you. As for Peter turning evil, it's part of an ongoing story thread we're working on that only seemed to end in ASM number 35. If it didn't work for you, that's a bummer. It worked for us and lots of fans. Oh, really? How are those Spider-Man sales going again? Oh, that's right. You don't publish the numbers anymore. Turning to the fans' bigger question, Lowe then asserted, would Stan and Steve and John want Peter's life to develop? I'm not sure, and I can't speak for them. Well, guess what, asshole? As somebody who's actually read the runs written by those men, shout out to Nick, 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser and his Clobby's Clubhouse on Friday nights, every Friday at 8:30 p.m., where we actually go through good runs like this so we can understand the source material even better than what we already did. If you have not clearly, first off, clearly by him saying this moron has never read any of those books. Because if you just read 10 or 15 issues, start at like issue 15 and go to like issue 35, right? 20 issues won't take you long. They're not super long, right? Read through those 15 to 20 issues. You will see a massive growth in Peter Parker and Spider-Man's character throughout that. He goes from being a high school boy, very confused about what he wants out of his relationships, confused as to who he wants, who he's in love with, and all of this other kind of stuff. It turns into a big old kind of crazy nonsense, and then it moves on, and it develops, and it goes forward. And you've always got this tease of MJ coming. You always got this tease of this incredibly beautiful redhead coming. And then you finally get it. You finally get that payoff. You've hit the jackpot, Tiger. Literally. You can't tell me that is not character development and what they planned on how to go with it. Those seeds were set way back before we saw the official reveal of MJ. So guess what? Here, Mr. Lowe, you're a moron who clearly has never read anything past the modern Spider-Man that you are writing for. Because if you did understand the greats like Stan Lee, Ditko, and of course John Romita Sr., you would actually know that. But because you can't see past your own fucking nose, your ego and your narcissism, you never will. Which is why Spider-Man, you will continue to write and run him as an evil bastard with no family and no redeemable qualities, because guess what? It's a representation of exactly who you are, which is the problem in all of the modern writing. So yes, I think we can speak for Stan Lee, Steve, and John. I think we can speak for them, because guess what? We've actually studied their work, and we know it. I certainly don't think they had a definitive plan for such a development, as they had no way of knowing the book would last decades past their time on the book. Then why did they set up all of these other things? I've come to think that Spider-Man growing and aging and developing his life along with the reader in Amazing Spider-Man isn't the way to go. Yeah, how's those sales working out for you? I believe that Spider-Man belongs to all fans and all generations and should mostly be as universally relatable as possible. Oh, where have we heard this bullshit line again? And here's the problem. If you really felt like that, right? Then go start another Spider-Man series, because he goes on to talk about the fact that they've given a bunch of different versions of Spider-Man over the years doing different things. If you really felt you always needed a kid's Spider-Man series to introduce him then just do a Spider-Man high school series that runs on forever. I mean, Archie and all of them did it for however long. Why couldn't you do that too? No, you want to dick and screw with the mainline Amazing Spider-Man series because that's what gets your jollies off. To own the chuds. How's that working out for you? How's those sales going, by the way? Why just mostly? Well, we should still do the stories like Superior Spider-Man, Worldwide and Beyond that drastically changed Spidey, but then come home to the core of Spider-Man. That said, we at Marvel contain multitudes and offered many Spider-Man growing and aging beyond his archetypal core if it's more your thing. If you don't like my book, don't buy it. Where have we heard this before? How did that go again? I can't remember. It's just been too long. And here it is that Lowe would fully hand control over his driver's seat to his ego. Turning to fans, claimed that millions of fans wanted the storyline retcon. The editor dismissed, I do think it's bold to claim that your view is one representing multiple millions of fans' viewpoint on how Amazing Spider-Man should work on the comic, with no way to prove it. But you do you. Like Spencer pointed out, like I pointed out in the intro to this video, literally, all you have to do is get online for 5 seconds and find any actual Spider-Man fans out there. You know, people that actually went back out of their way to read Ditko, to read Stan Lee, to read John Romita Sr. Those folks, yeah, they got a real fucking issue with this homeboy. Like I said, how's your sales going? Because they're not in the millions anymore. Where did all those millions of Spider-Man's fans go? I wonder. For their joiner's response to close, Ultimate declared, regardless, I'm glad you're enjoying Ultimate Spider-Man. I love that book too. Jonathan Hickman and Mark and company are so good. Are so good. This is what we get from the modern era. This is what we get. Fortunately enough, Wells' series is going to come to an end very shortly, but that's not going to matter because this is still one of their editors. This is still the exact same thinking that they have inside of Marvel all over the place. Why? Because it's always been about one thing and one thing only: deconstructing and destroying your heroes. Why? Because heroes are created to inspire you. Heroes are created to inspire you to be better than who you are. They embody the virtue of self-sacrifice. That's one of the things about Peter Parker that makes him such a great Spider-Man. He's willing to sacrifice everything else for the greater good. Not just for Aunt May, but for the whole world, right? And that's why the Aunt May line gets so overused and so overdone, and it's just such a cheap bullshit tactic, right? But that's what they want to do. They don't want you to see moral, upstanding heroes. They don't want you to see any of that kind of stuff. And they don't know how to write it anyway, because they have no idea what morality is. If they had their moral compass wouldn't get them out of a wet paper bag, okay? That's how broken they all are. So that's what they do. They don't know what heroes are. They don't know what it's like to be honorable and virtuous and tell the truth and self-sacrifice for other people. All they know about is narcissism and ego. And that's why you see this kind of these horrible traits repeated over and over again in our quote-unquote heroes in the modern era, because that was their goal from the very beginning. To destruct and deconstruct and destroy your heroes. So that way you wouldn't be inspired anymore. So that way you wouldn't think you could be better than what you are. So that way you wouldn't look up to heaven and think maybe there is something better. Maybe there is something greater out there. Maybe there is an ideal I can hold to that is higher than myself. They don't want that. They don't want you looking down. They want you looking on the ground. They want you to make you think your heroes are just like you. They're just depressed and broken and miserable as you. Because if your heroes are like that, then what do you have to strive for? You're already at hero status with your broken and miserable life. You just don't have superpowers. And that's the goal. To destroy the inspirational, to destroy the beautiful, and to destroy the good. Don't believe me? Look at how your modern characters are your modern female characters are portrayed in video games. Look at the way the storylines are treated. Their goal is to destroy anything inspirational and beautiful. And whether you want to call it Marxism or whether you want to call it the devil's work themselves, it is evil. And that is the goal. Evil cannot create. It can only destroy and manipulate. I'm, of course, paraphrasing that a little bit. But that's literally the same sentiment here. These people are evil. And until we decide to stand up and call them out as they are, we will never get things to change. Because this is an evil ideology that seeks to destroy your heroes and make sure that you don't ever believe you can be something greater than what you are currently. That you can't get past the BS of life to do something great and incredible and be good. But boys and girls, I believe the opposite. I know you can do better. I know you can be a hero. You can self-sacrifice. And that's what these heroes are supposed to do. Inspire you to be that. And trust me, there are plenty of other great stories that you can go out there and find that inspiration. But it is intentional. I promise you that. They wanted to destroy your heroes so they'd keep you looking down at your toes and never looking up to the heavens. Be bold, boys and girls. Push back against this kind of stuff and be a better person today than you were. Be a better person today than you were yesterday, and tomorrow better than you are today. Because that's what heroes are supposed to inspire. That's what Spider-Man is supposed to inspire. And this asshole, enjoy being king of the mountaintop, because all you are is king of a burning pile of ash. You destroyed Spider-Man. You destroyed the relationship. You destroyed heroes. And now your comic book sales are destroyed. Because after all, you did it to yourself. It was intentional. And now you get exactly what you deserve.